Again, I'm extremely late to the party on this one, but I avoided it for so very long, and then this one came back in stock and I just couldn't say no. Today we're going to take a look at the Google Pixel in the limited edition really blue color. Yeah, when the Pixel was announced, I was really not that hyped about it. The price point, the specs weren't amazing. The camera's supposed to be great, but there have been some issues with it, lens flare and whatnot. And the fact it doesn't have any sort of waterproofing or water resistance to it, I think it's IP54, it just makes it very hard to justify the price. But it's the newest device, and it's the newest Google phone. I knew I would end up picking it up eventually, and when this limited edition, really blue color became available again, and apparently is not so limited anymore, had to do it. So today we have the Google Pixel, not the Pixel XL, the 5-inch phone, 32 gigs of storage in the limited edition really blue color. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and just open the box. We'll go over specs and stuff as we get into it. You can see there specifically Pixel 5-inch 32 gigs really blue. There it is. And I will say that is an absolutely beautiful color, and it actually translates really well on this camera. Underneath the phone, there's a SIM ejector tool, some documentation, getting started guide, personal assistant information, a free 3-month trial of Google Play Music, as well as a little thanks card, a safety and warranty information guide, what appears to be a very thick, decently thick USB Type-C to USB-A cable, as well as a USB Type-C to full-size USB adapter, and the USB wall wart, which if you can see it says it outputs 5 volts at 3 amps or 9 volts at 2 amps. That's something that I missed along with all this, was that there are 2 different charging speeds available. And interestingly enough, there's a USB Type-C to USB Type-C cable. Not complaining in the slightest. Very thick, very nice cables. As for the phone itself, you can see here on the front it says your personal Google Assistant is always ready to help, but we'll go ahead and take all of this off. That was thoroughly wrapped up in there. And there you have it. So a white front, a white bezel and everything, front-facing camera. There's the power button, which is textured, as well as the volume rocker. SIM card slot on the other side, 3.5mm headphone jack on top, USB Type-C port on the bottom, with what appear to be dual bottom-firing speakers, although I may be wrong on that one. And then on the back, there you can see that lovely color again, sort of a matte blue down here and shiny, glossy up here. I think this is all glass. Fingerprint reader, rear-facing camera with LED flash, and very minimalistic branding here, just the little G. And I will say, other than that color, it looks an awful lot and feels an awful lot like a lot of the relatively inexpensive Chinese phones that I've handled over the last few years. The metal around the outside does feel very nice in the hand. It's very slippery, which is why I did also buy a case for it, just a clear case so I can actually see through it, as well as some more of these ring holders. I figure I'll put a ring on the back of the clear case on the phone so I can still see the blue color, but have a ring to hold on to. This thing was like $8 on Amazon. I'll put links to both of these down there as well. In terms of the specs though, we do have a 5-inch AMOLED Full HD 1080p display. It has a 12.3 megapixel rear-facing camera with an f2.0 aperture and 1.55 micron pixels, capable of 4K 30 frames per second video capture, as well as 720p 240 frames per second and 1080p 120 frames per second. Has an 8 megapixel front-facing camera, which from what I've seen from some other people's videos, does some amazing selfies and selfie video. That one has an f2.4 aperture with 1.4 micron pixels and is capable of doing full HD 1080p 30 video. Again, unfortunate. 8 megapixel camera should be capable of at least 1080p 60, not 4K, but still 1080p 60, why not? So I'm a little bummed by that. For the rest of the specs, we do have a Qualcomm Snapdragon 821 processor, that's 2.15 gigahertz. There's a faster clocked one in the OnePlus 3T. It also has 4 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of storage in this one in particular, and has a 2,770 milliamp hour battery, which is significantly smaller than the one in the Pixel XL, but you've also got a much smaller footprint. And other than that, let's just go ahead and skip ahead, let this finish. And actually, while we're doing that, let me go ahead and open this so I'll have it ready to go. This is just a super cheap Trianium case that I picked up on Amazon. It's clear, it's super shiny. It's actually got a bit of a textured finish on the inside. It was like $8, and to cover up the blue, but not looks like we're almost ready. But to cover up the blue and not actually cover it, I thought this was worth it. But we'll put that back on in a minute. So let's go through the setup here. You have emergency options, vision settings if you're visually impaired in some way, language settings. Let's go. Insert a SIM card, we'll skip that for now. Copy data or set up as a new device. Set up as new. I can always come back and reset this and set it up as an existing device later if I want. So we've got all the Wi-Fi networks showing up. Typing is not bad at all. And while this is updating, in terms of just a sheer size comparison, I've got it here next to the iPhone 7. You can see it is just ever so slightly taller, ever so slightly thicker, and pretty close to the same width. The bezels are about the same. You've got a little bit more chin on this one, and it's time to sign in. Although the one thing I will say It does not have a camera hump like the iPhone 7. It's all flat. That's a big plus. Now it wants to do the fingerprint setup, so we'll add a fingerprint. Fingerprint reader being Pixel Imprint. We'll just draw a pattern, and we'll put our fingerprint in. So put your fingerprint on the sensor and lift it. Well, that was super, super easy, and I guess I'll put another one in later. And I had an option there to back up to Google Drive. This is going to do all the location information and free up space when your device is full by removing backed up photos and videos. And here's the personal assistant, which I'll just go ahead and say OK to. So at this point, say, OK Google, OK Google, OK Google. Yeah. Google Home in the next room, and we're all set, and that's that. Although it says restoring now. And right out of the box, it does say Android 7.1.1. Tap to learn more and download. So presumably this is not running the latest, greatest version. It's running 7.1, October 5th security patch. So interesting. And actually, other than just playing with the beta on my Nexus 5X, this is the first time I've really gotten hands-on with the full final build of Android 7.1. And it was just giving me a notice that I had signed in. So just taking a quick look at it, you can see we've got a clock up here. We've got a swipe over to see Google stuff. Tap on it and it brings up this whole list. Lots of Pokemon stuff, maps, Play Store. Swipe up to get to the app drawer. And there's the apps that come pre-installed on the device. Not a huge amount. Google Allo, and it looks like it's installing some additional things for me. So yeah, pretty sparse, pretty bare bones. It's a good place to get started from. I will say just the initial swiping around and looking at stuff, it's super, super snappy. As you would expect, it's a brand new phone. It's a top-end phone. Taking a look in the camera. Yep, it looks very much like a camera. And it looks like the lens is pretty decently wide angle, just holding it up there in front of you. Now just looking at some of the camera settings, we do have an option here for 30 or 60 frames a second. It defaulted to 30, but that means the rear-facing camera can do 1080p 60, which is nice. And if you come in here to the settings in 30 frames a second, you can change it to UHD 4K. You can turn video stabilization on or off. Front camera, 1080p is the highest still. And if we switch around to the front camera, we don't have an option for 30 or 60, but there's me. Hello. And I'll do the update later. It's not a big deal to have it in this video, but I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and put the phone inside of this case. Just very quickly and easily slips on and gives me a little bit more of a grip to it, as well as taking one of these little pads. I made a video about these before. This is the Spigen version of it. This is just a super cheap generic one. It was $8 for 4 of these, and they come with a little car mount. So we've got 4 of these and 4 of the mounts, and they don't have to be great. For $2 a piece, I'm okay as long as they stay on for a little while. There we go, much more like home. And now I feel a little bit more secure with it. And actually, because of the way that I set this all up, my finger rests right on the fingerprint reader, so that's perfect. So I think at this point, let's do just a few video samples and then we'll wrap things up. Here's a quick video from the rear-facing camera of the Pixel. This should be filming at 1080p, 60 frames per second with video stabilization turned on. I've done a couple of samples up to this point, just testing it out, and so far, in this kind of lighting, the video looks pretty nice. And here we have a sample from the front-facing camera. This is 1080p video at 30 frames per second, so it might look a little bit stuttery, a little bit jumpy, but just looking at it in the viewfinder here, it actually looks quite nice. It doesn't look grainy or anything like that. Maybe I'm mistaken, but so far, again, very impressed. Here we've got a bit of a lower light sample. We've got Yoda with his Christmas lights all over him. This is actually a solar LED light strip, Christmas light strip that I got, but it's no longer solar. I took it all apart and just put it together with a USB cable and a battery, and now it's USB powered. So low light again. The stabilization on this seems to be doing a pretty good job as long as I'm pretty steady with it. But yeah, it looks good in lower light. A little bit of front-facing lower light. Not low light, but lower in here with the Christmas tree in the background. Again, not bad looking footage. A little bit, maybe a little bit grainy, a little bit slower shutter speed. And out back, we've got some very late fall colors here and some background noises. Maybe a little bit of a breeze, not much of one. That bird's awfully loud. The one thing I am noticing about this, I noticed earlier when playing around with this, when you pan too quickly, the stabilization gets kind of jerky like you can see there. So it has a bit of a trouble keeping up with the turning too fast. But again, outdoor footage using the rear-facing camera looks very, very impressive. Again, just don't be too jerky on the panning. If you want to do any sort of panning, put it on a tripod and very slowly turn it, or just very carefully do it. Don't go, jerking around very quickly, or you'll notice it. And because why not? This is the front-facing outdoors. I did some wind sample tests earlier, and it seemed to do pretty well with a little bit of wind. You're not going to want to get too much wind, but that's the same that can be said for any phone. But so far, just the limited experience I've had with the front and rear-facing cameras, I've been very pleased with them. this would make for an excellent vlogging camera, I think. A little bit more testing. The sun's already going down. Looks like the dynamic range on this, well, I mean, we're pointing straight to the sun, so you wouldn't expect it to be amazing, but over here it looks pretty good. Look at the sunset. So nice. Yep, way too dark to see anything out here, but this is ultra low light footage. And I think that's actually where I'm going to wrap things up for today. I'm sure there are some things that I've missed, but feel free to let me know the things that I did miss down in the comment section below. But just initial impressions of this. Fingerprint reader is super fast. Performance is super fast. The screen looks really nice. The camera seems to perform pretty well. Better than a lot of other cameras I've used on cell phones. I think better than the iPhone in my opinion, but that's just really sort of a subjective thing. Better than the Galaxy S7, that's almost a toss-up there. Probably better at filming. Is it worth $650? Because that's what I paid for this. That remains to be seen, and I'll leave part of that up to you guys. And I'll put a link to where you can find that, as well as the case and the ring, down in the video description if you're interested in checking them out for yourself. But thank you guys as always for watching. Make sure to leave a thumbs up down below this video if you liked the video. Subscribe to the channel to receive all the videos I make as soon as they become available. I'll see you again next time.